Long story short, my ex-wife and I were married for 7 years. We split up because she had mental health issues that led her to repeatedly cheat on me with a coworker. I got full custody of our daughter because my ex-wife tried to kidnap her and drive into a ditch whilst intoxicated. My ex-wife has never paid the court-mandated child support and I never pursued it because I make a significant amount of money at my job and she is unemployed. We split 11 years ago and our daughter is now 17. My ex-wife made no attempt to stay in contact, she got with the guy she had been seeing and they had a son together shortly after we divorced. About 3 months ago my ex-wife contacted me to say that my daughter wasn't actually mine, she was the product of the affair with the guy she is now married to, and that my daughter needed to donate bone marrow to her brother. I refused. She contacted our daughter by showing up at school, and when our daughter refused to talk to her, she is unhappy that after all this time her mum only shows up when she wants something. My ex-wife escalated to screaming at her about being ungrateful for being alive. Our daughter came home very upset and broke down about how upset she was that her mum never reached out to her after the split and how now the only reason she's contacted us is because she needs something. As a result of how upset she was, I've gotten legal advice. My ex-wife is having a meltdown over Facebook because I won't force our daughter to talk to her or donate bone marrow. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I doubt everything your ex-wife said about your daughter not being yours because I don't believe her. If she's half siblings with a boy, she might not even be matches, even high chance. Even if they are full siblings, it's 25% chance that they match. Anyway, it's her body, and if she doesn't want to donate and go through all that, she doesn't have to. Your ex-wife has no right to tell her what to do with her body, just like you have no right to force her to donate. Not the idiot. 1. Shame on a parent who only comes around when they need something. 2. Being blood related does not guarantee a donor match. 3. Nobody can force anyone to give any body part. The donor has to give informed consent, and, at 17, she can refuse privately to the doctor without anyone else finding out why she was an incompatible donor. In the United States at least. 4. Children are not an insurance policy, retirement plan, or health plan. You made the kid, you are responsible for his or her care. If another kid wants to donate, by all means, but I don't think it's even appropriate to ask someone so young, let alone throw a guilt trip at them. You should keep your daughter as far away from such an abusive person as possible. She's old enough to understand what is happening, so what you can do is tell her about what the situation with her brother is and explain the marrow transplant. She can then decide on her own what she would like to do, or better yet, you can discuss it together what she feels best about. After the conversation, she can put her feeling into writing and send a letter to her mom explaining her reasoning, so there is no further misunderstanding. Do not let her talk to her mom directly. My sister had planned to get married in April, but due to the pandemic, she had to cancel her wedding, and she got married in a very small ceremony on the day she originally planned and rescheduled her big wedding. I am also planning my wedding, and my date for the last 9 months has been October 9th. We had planned an intimate family and friend ceremony and then dinner at a very special restaurant to us. October 9th is a Friday. The issue arose when my sister announced she had rescheduled her wedding for October 10th. Which wouldn't have been as super annoying if her wedding wasn't 3 states away. I asked my sister about it and she said it's the day she wanted and to deal with it because my wedding wasn't as expensive, so I can reschedule if I want, she's more important. That hurt. When I told my parents what she said, yes, I tattled. They said her wedding is more important because she had to reschedule. So, I told them if that's what they thought, then they didn't have to come, and hung up. My mother has left me multiple voicemails calling me an ungrateful child and that I was overreacting. My grandmother is now involved and says I need to get over it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Perhaps your parents don't especially like you. A true story. My brother got married in more or less central Virginia. My parents made a road trip from a city about between Baltimore and Philadelphia to attend his wedding. Some weeks later I got married in New York City. Now my parents live scant miles from an Amtrak's Northeast Corridor station. However, they could not attend my wedding, claiming that it was too long of a drive. It was maybe a 2-hour drive, or they could have taken a train to attend my wedding, but they were able to make a 4-hour road trip to attend my brother's wedding. Cut these toxic idiots out of your life. Have your wedding with people that actually care about you and want to be there. Anyone that doesn't have a problem with this doesn't love you. Even if after all this, they do decide to reschedule the sister's wedding or come to yours instead, tell them they are still uninvited because they have made clear that they have no respect, regard or love for you and have no place at your wedding. You can uninvite anyone from your wedding for any reason, it's your wedding. In your case, it's completely justified anyways. Your sister is the idiot for moving her wedding the day after you, sounds like she did it out of spite, she had to reschedule, so she wants you to reschedule too, and your parents are idiots for saying her wedding is more important than yours. You have no obligation to reschedule because of your sister's entitlement. Of course, you may still have to reschedule if it's not safe by October, which sounds quite likely at this point, but until then, no reason to reschedule. And if you do reschedule, not re-inviting your parents or your sister anyway would be completely understandable. My daughter is 16. Myself and her mom separated when she was 12 and we both live in the same town and maintain a healthy relationship and split custody 50-50. I taught my daughter how to drive and was with her when she got her license last month. Last week, my daughter came home with a ticket for texting and driving on the highway. This caused a huge concern for me. The ticket included a $200 fine and a 20-day suspension of her license. I was obviously very upset and we got into an argument about it. Her points were that everyone does it and that she doesn't do that often or when other cars are around. Not only was she defending herself, but she was essentially arguing that she does it safely. I told her that regardless of when the suspension kicks in, she is grounded from driving until she has shown that she can be responsible enough to not put her own life or the other lives on the road in danger. I took her car keys, a car that I had bought for her as a getting your license present. She went and called her mom before I did, and next thing I know, I have her calling me and telling me that I had no right to punish her like that without talking to her first. I agreed that I should have talked to her first about it, but that I feel like the grounding is non-negotiable. Her mom actually took her side and said the same everyone does it bullcrap and that she needs a car to get to work and hang out with friends. I told her that it is ridiculous that she is even supporting this. The conversation ended with her telling me that she wasn't going to enforce the rule and would allow her to drive one of her cars at her house. I waited a few days until it was her mom's turn of custody. I called her and she confirmed that she isn't backing off and that she is going to let her drive until the suspension kicks in. I told her that she is actively letting our child endanger her life as well as everyone else's. She told me I am making this a much bigger deal out than it needs to be, and she said that, if it was actually that serious, she would have gotten more than a 20-day suspension. In my state, the parent that signed the minor driving consent form when you get your license has the ability to have your license revoked, so I did just that. They warned me that this will count as a full revocation on her record and that she will be ineligible to get it again until she is 18. I went through with it and texted her mother to tell her that I revoked her license and sent her a picture of the paper the Department of Motor Vehicles sent me. She told me I am out of line and making decisions for our daughter without consulting her. I told her that she was neglecting her safety and I wasn't going to allow her to enable our daughter to endanger herself or someone else on the road. My daughter is livid at me and so is her mom, but I feel like I did what I had to do. Am I the idiot? Oh man, I don't know now. I was with you all the way up until the 2 years before she can get it again. 100% in your corner that it's extremely serious and terrifying that she and her mom doesn't realize that. If only there was a 3 to 6 month revocation option I'd be saying hell yeah, but I wonder if there could have been more discussions and education before the full hammer came down. That's a long time for someone her age and she may grow a lot in a year. Still not willing to judge you an idiot, you're a scared dad, but a bit harsher road than I may have taken. Everyone's the idiot here. Your daughter is the idiot because she wouldn't take responsibility for her actions, thereby making it clear that she absolutely would make the same decisions again. Your ex is the idiot because she supported your daughter's ridiculous irresponsibility and refused to accept to enforce any kind of punishment for her behavior. You're the idiot because you went full nuclear. You were in the right and then pulled the old "you made me do this" because you wouldn't listen otherwise. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. Especially this. Now, your daughter will be an 18-year-old new driver and you've lost any respect from her. I hope it was worth it. Not the idiot. My girlfriend was almost killed by a teenager texting and driving. He slammed into the back of the car she was in doing 70 miles per hour, and they were stopped. She's incredibly lucky to be alive and spent considerable time in the hospital recovering from her injuries. The kid walked away with minor injuries and a totaled vehicle. I have zero sympathy for people who do such stupidly dangerous stuff. Texting and driving ranks right up there with impaired driving. And your ex is evil for endorsing your daughter doing such things. I, 26, just got engaged to my fiancé, 32, who's the only son my future mother-in-law has, and she is incredibly involved in his adult life. At first, that didn't bother me as I see it as a good thing that he has a good relationship with his mom, but it started getting worse with her constantly getting involved in my personal life as well. His family decided to have a small celebration for our engagement and they invited my family for dinner. I wasn't so comfortable with having a celebration cause I felt that my fiancé and I should decide whether we wanted or not. Anyways, I had my mom, dad, brother attend. We met some of his family members there as well. Things were going fine until my mother-in-law talked about wedding, honeymoon and stuff like that. My fiancé was talking and I just sat there listening. She then started talking about future grandkids, and this is when I got uncomfortable. I'm living child-free and planning on living child-free all my life, and I think that it mostly because of experiencing a traumatic death of my younger sibling, my sister, who was sick, and I was the closest one to her. She was young, and during her sickness I felt like I was being a mother to her. My parents knew how much her and I were connected, and her death was so devastating. I will never know what it feels like to lose a child, but losing her felt like a piece of me was gone. I don't want kids thinking they'd be gone one day, and I'll have to deal with this awful pain for the rest of my life, like how I'm dealing with my sister's death. I already discussed this with my fiancé, but instead of telling her to drop it, he just let her go on. My parents noticed her behavior. My dad told her that I wasn't planning on being a mom, but she just laughed it off and said that I'll change my mind. Then she made a toast saying to my future grandchildren. I got sick of it. I quietly told my fiancé that I wanted to leave, but he told me to wait. I turned to my dad and asked him if he could drive me home, and my family all got ready to leave. My mother-in-law tried to pressure us into staying, but we left eventually. In about 30 minutes after her guests left, I got a call from my fiancé telling me his mom wants to talk. He gave her his phone, and she blew up on me for walking out and embarrassing her in front of her guests, and brought up the kids' topic and said that she gets a say in that. She berated me for 5 minutes then hung up on me. My fiancé called, but I ignored him. I went home with my family feeling awful. The whole situation is horrible. And I cried feeling hurt by them and their lack of consideration and them just steamrolling my decisions as a person like that. Not the idiot. Do not marry this guy. He will always put his mother first and he will never have your back. If you ignore my advice and stay with him, use long-term birth control that can't be tampered with and maintain your own bank account for your income and savings. Because his mother can't be trusted not to mess with your birth control, and your fiancé will give his mother your savings if she asks for it. You're the idiot if you marry this guy. How many red flags do you need before enough is enough? This guy is literally telling you he will always prioritize his mom over you, you know this, and yet you complain, but don't actually want to do anything about it like dump your stupid fiancé. If you follow through with your engagement you're making a conscious choice that this is going to be your future. I'm so sorry about your sister. I can tell from the way you write about her death that it was very hard for you. No one has any say in whether or not you have a child but you. It's a conversation you have to have with your spouse, and it sounds like you have, but you do not owe your mother-in-law an explanation or conversation about the topic. Period. In addition to finding ways to create better boundaries with your mother-in-law, I think you should consider counseling with your fiancé, as he clearly did not respect your boundaries either. Perhaps because of his mother's abuse he doesn't know how to and needs help. My father was never present in my life even after various attempts I made to have a real relationship with him. The little time I spent with him as child he was very abusive. It took me longer than most to lose my baby fat, and he'd always make snark comments about it. He'd also compare me to every other child he knew, and I'd always not be as good as them. When I was 10 my mother was diagnosed with schizophrenia and depression. Things got really tough. We had to move in with my grandma, who became responsible for the both of us. Money was always tight. Mental illness treatment is very expensive in my country. My grandma tried to contact my father to ask for help with me because it was really tough for me to see my mother in the state she was in. He always said he couldn't take me in or help with extra money because he had a new family that need his attention. After a while he moved to the other side of the country and didn't talk to me for years. Eventually things got better, the meds started to work, and now you couldn't even tell my mother has any kind of mental illness. However, money was still short for us, especially after my mom got pregnant again, even after the doctors said that was impossible. Abortion is not an option in my country. After I finished high school, I had no hopes of ever going to college because we couldn't afford, but my mom still made me take my country's equivalent of the Scholastic Aptitude Test. Somehow I got a 50% scholarship for one of the best schools in the country. The problem was, even with the scholarship, we still couldn't afford, and I couldn't work to pay for it because the school was in the next town and I'd spend literally every time off in traffic. We also don't have college dorms here. At this point my dad was back in town, so I decided to give it a try and contacted him to see if he could help. He wasn't rich, but he had money and was always doing stuff with his family, so I figured he would have at least a little to help me. But all he said was, "Can't help you, you know that. Just find a job." And after that he never tried to contact me again. Right after that my mom received a very high restitution from the state and literally gave it all to me. I went to college, graduated, got an amazing job, and now I'm paying for my sister's college. Last month my mom made a Facebook post saying how much she was grateful to have me as her daughter because I was helping with my sister's education, and then out of the blue my dad decided to contact me and ask for me to help with his other daughter college too. I said I couldn't because I was already paying for my sister's and I was saving to buy an apartment. I also said that maybe she should get a job. I felt really great, but then he started to say I was being a vindictive idiot. He made a Facebook post about it, and now a lot of people are agreeing with him to the point where I'm reconsidering it. Not the idiot. Your dad tried to exploit you, and he was surprised to find out you had a backbone. Now he's moving on to plan B, misrepresenting the situation to your shared social network to guilt you into giving him what he wants without him having to show any remorse for abandoning you and your mom. Block him and ignore anyone who takes his side. His kid is his bill. You're paying it forward, which is great. Mom could have held money back for your sister, but she didn't, and you all recognize it. Your stranger bio dad is trying to manipulate you. Since he is okay being an idiot on Facebook, you should respond truthfully in what had happened, how he was, and such. If people still bug you, then let them help him. Do not pay for him and his other family. Take care of yourself and your family. It's not your job to pay for or raise your half-siblings, even though you're already doing it for one. If you knew them well, grew up with them, etc., that might have changed some things. But honestly, nobody is entitled to your time or money, or even emotions. Certainly not an absentee father who is now hoping you'll take over and save him some cash. These people are strangers to you. None of them reached out or expressed interest in you or advocated for you. So screw them. This is money you've earned through your hard work and efforts, and you can decide where you want to spend it.